and I have not seen this, but apparently documentary that came out this morning showed or indicated, proved that Connor Stalions was given a game ball with his name on it after Iowa's lost to Michigan 2 years ago in Kinnick. I don't know if what you've heard about that documentary that was released earlier today, but based on, again, I have not looked into it either, but based on early returns, that's an indicator that Jim Harbaugh absolutely knew what was going on. I mean, like, beyond any doubt. Like, you know what? Here's what we have to compare it to. The criminal justice system, innocent until proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. That's where we're at right now, in my opinion. Based on the evidence that we have, if there was a jury in place, I would have a hard time at this point seeing a jury ruling Jim Harbaugh as not guilty, even though you need strong evidence to convict somebody. Like, that's pretty, what's the, I'm going to try to think of a kind word to use, but
pretty damning.
Well, I was trying to avoid using that word.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the word that came to mind. I was trying to avoid using it, but
damaging.
Just your thoughts. I know everybody, whenever I bring up Michigan, you got sour grapes. I'm like, come on. Can we just have a conversation? They cheated, and here's the deal. It's all about ethics and respect and dignity for the game. And Kirk Ferentz committed a violation. He has admitted that and taken responsibility. All I've seen from Michigan is an attempt to deflect. And I mean, Jim Harbaugh basically has doubled down. Even since he's been hired in the league, he has doubled down on his stance that they did nothing wrong. And here's the deal. Like, there's a big difference, whether you want to admit it or not. There's a big difference between Kirk Ferentz reaching out to a backup quarterback in Cade McNamara, who everybody knew he was leaving. I'm not saying it's okay, but there's a big difference between that and Michigan sending a staff member basically as an undercover agent to steal signals from opposing coach. I mean, it's crazy. Like, let's stop acting. I know these Michigan fans, it's just like, I'm sure what's happened is half of these fans have a cardboard cutout of the national championship trophy and they sleep with it every single night. Okay, I get it. You've cried on it, they've sweat on it, they've done everything. That's fine. But Mark, you cheated. Like, just admit it. You cheated, and that's all there is to it. Nobody's saying you shouldn't have the national title. That's not for me to decide. That's not for Kirk to decide. But, like, it's okay, and you need to, as a Michigan fan, you ought to learn to be comfortable with other people being uncomfortable that you committed such, in my opinion and many opinions, heinous violations that compromised the integrity of the game. So, and by the way, I am not going to be pressured or scolded into not talking about it because it's fair. It's news. It's noteworthy. I've never had any vendetta against Michigan. You know my history with Michigan fans. I don't know why Michigan fans have always disliked me. But I mean, just give me your insight, Mark. You're an Ohio State guy, but you're balanced.
Okay. I have probably talked about this since that story broke. I am guessing I have talked about that investigation and the ins and outs of what happened or what we speculate may or may not have happened in that situation. I'm guessing as much as anybody on YouTube outside of Michigan focused channels and commentators. It's been a constant talking piece. Boil everything I've ever said down to this one point. This is what I have wanted to know since day one, since the story broke. Okay, we know that Michigan, and when I use that term Michigan, I mean a representative of Michigan. Therefore, by extension, Michigan, we know that they cheated. That's substantiated. Now, what I wanted to know all this time, which leads me to your scene that you painted in the Michigan locker room after the Iowa game at Kinnick 2 years ago, what I wanted to know more than anything else, there's a lot of things I would love to know, but this more than anything is how widespread was the knowledge of this cheating within the coaching staff. Are we to believe that Connor Stalions was this mastermind of stealing signs and had this operation going on the side and just simply gave these signs and this information to the defensive coordinator, who just blindly said, this guy's a genius. Okay, we know that so-and-so's not going to run, they're going to pass. And they're shouting and jumping up and down and changing the defense 3 seconds before the play to let everyone know on the field, no, they're going to run, they're not going to pass. I just can't believe that this guy who put on his resume on LinkedIn that he's basically a mastermind of espionage. It was on his LinkedIn. This is what I major in. This is what I've perfected. This is my skill set. So he's hired by the University of Michigan's football team to then be a staffer. That didn't come into play, that he suddenly was able to do this just game day. And we know that sign stealing is legal if you are able to pull that off within the game on the field, if you're that good at stealing signs. But I find it hard to believe, as you do. Now, it's not proven at this point that we know of, but not proven beyond
what more do you need to prove it? What more do you need to prove it?
Well, that's the first I had heard of this scene in the locker room with Jim Harbaugh. So one of my points recently was you don't have someone continue to do something unless it's effective. No college football coach at that level, as paranoid as they are about winning and doing everything right and not exhausting resources in the wrong places, would have somebody continue to do this through the 2021-22 into the 23 season if it wasn't effective. If it wasn't working, they would have told Connor Stalions after a couple games, stop. We don't need that. It's not helping us. But he kept doing it.
Let me ask you this, and I don't know the background of this because contrary to what Michigan fans think, I really don't spend any time thinking about Michigan until we come on here and we start talking about football. But is someone at the other side trying to convince me that Connor Stalions somehow made his way to an opposing sideline and dressed up in opposing attire, and that was done without knowledge of your that doesn't make any sense. First of all, do we know that game where he was confirmed that they've recently confirmed that was him on the sidelines? What was it? The Central Michigan game against someone? Michigan State. Okay. Was that game on a Saturday in which Michigan played?
No, it was a Thursday or Friday game. That's why he was able to attend that game.
Okay. And did they have a game that week?
I don't know.
Okay, I guess
probably it was early in the season.
How does a guy slip off into an opposing stadium, and during the football season, you're invested as part of this as a Michigan staff, and Harbaugh's got no idea where he's off on this opposing. Has Harbaugh commented on that?
Harbaugh's commented on nothing except to say I had no knowledge of any wrongdoing.
How do you lose track of somebody on your staff? It's like that episode of Seinfeld where Elaine calls into work and then they're spotted at the ball game. Was it an Orioles game or whatever? I'm just imagining Jim Harbaugh getting done after a long day of work and being like, I didn't see Connor around the facility today. I wonder what that guy's doing. I'm only paying him, how much money. And you're looking on, that looks like Connor down there on the sidelines. I wonder what he's doing in Central Michigan attire. What a stupid concept. What a stupid concept. And by the way, can you address you got a couple of starred comments here, and then we can move on back over to Iowa. But there are a couple of starred comments that I think need to be addressed,
okay.
Mark.
Let's run them down here. We've got Moose, who says, every sports analyst thinks this whole investigation is a joke. That is not true. They think Jim's suspension from college football is a joke. That's not true.
But
and even if it was, that doesn't mean that they're correct.
And by the way, I've never said they didn't. Like I said earlier, I've never claimed that Michigan doesn't deserve the national title. I've never actually said that. But like, yeah, this is just the statement is quantifiably false. Mark, I would consider you to be a sports analyst. I guess maybe Moose is what he should have typed out is every sports analyst that I care to believe or that I care to listen to, although he's here, so that wouldn't qualify either. He's here. He's listening to you. So that guy. No, that's not true, obviously. And then what's the other? Is there another comment here that
we got? King Davis 7374. The only people who take sign stealing as the most horrible thing in sports is couch potatoes who never played the sports ever.
Yeah, I'm sure that, Don Patterson's never played, never coached. He's commented on this up and down. It's just like the dummy, and I say dummy, and I'm being very mild. I won't name names because that wouldn't be right, but that tried to come over on our preseason show and claim that we know nothing about what we're talking about. We're couch potatoes. I'm like, I mean, I've got a guy who is the winningest coach in the history of a Division I program on the show with me, and you're going to act like anyways, moving on.
Yeah. A lot of people, and I'm sure it happens with you as well, that criticize me and make comments, they sometimes, if they talk long enough or type long enough, they let me know that they have no idea what I've ever done or what I know or anything. So that's fine.
Well, I will say this. I consider you to be a very good and I would consider you to be a very objective commentator. Like, there are a few people that analyze the sport that have an allegiance to a team or, fandom with the team or program that are able to separate the two. I think you do a great job of doing that. I think you do a better job than I do. And I think part of that is the nature of what I'm doing, given the fact that I cover Iowa all the time and you're covering everything. But I mean, you've been critical of Ohio State on things. And, I think you're in an awkward position right now. I think you have a hard time right now because this is a difficult situation, and it's paired with the start of a season in which Ohio State's loaded and, a lot of people think they're going to win the conference and win the national title. So I think that puts you in a difficult position. But I have nothing against Michigan. I had nothing against Michigan until I've had reason to believe that they cheated. And this is again, coaches will tell you. Kirk Ferentz didn't say it today because he's trying to take the high road and he doesn't want to. There's no reason to distract your team or create a different narrative on first week of the season. That would just be stupid. So I think it was kind of a lazy question, but regardless, due diligence. I shouldn't call it a lazy question. It was a due diligent question. However, time and place you expect. I thought Kirk had the right answer in store there. But most coaches, if not all, would say that this was a very serious threat to the integrity of the game. And I would venture to say that most coaches would say what Kirk Ferentz did is wrong, but everybody does it. And, people are doing it a lot more than Kirk has. That's what I raved about here a few days ago when it happened, Mark. I don't know if you caught my soapbox, but basically it was, look, I'm not defending Kirk Ferentz, but it's happening across the country, hundreds, maybe even thousands of times every single day. I mean, I said on the show, and I'll stand by it, there are literally, I got wind of another one here about 48 hours ago, a player at an FCS program who hasn't even played yet, but a player at an FCS program who is highly recruited. He's at a really good FCS program, and he has currently got G5 programs that are basically begging his team for him to get in the portal as soon as possible. He ain't even played it down yet. This is a guy who's a freshman. This is happening everywhere at every level. It's not just the Power 4 teams. It's the G5 programs. And it's happening at Iowa. It's happening everywhere. So it's so hypocritical. But, that is one problem. This is in my opinion, a more egregious, serious issue. But we can move back to Iowa. But I feel like it was brought up at Kirk's press conference today. So it was worth discussing here.
There is only one reason why anyone would ever cheat at anything. There's only one reason. I shouldn't have to explain.